So, good afternoon and welcome to today's broadcast. And today I'll be discussing the need to be an extraordinary person. And I suppose that this is a quest that a number of us have always had in our hearts and minds. And it's something that we would like to pursue for the rest of our life. So, as you join me online, let me appreciate you for coming online. I see that persons are already joining online. Thank you for coming online. And as you come online, I would just make a few requests that you please share this broadcast with friends and do a watch party and also make comments as may be necessary or relevant as far as the topic that we're discussing today is concerned. So today I'm talking about becoming an extraordinary person. Now, I do recognize and realize that a number of us have always been interested to be an extraordinary person. What does it mean in the first place to be an extraordinary person? What does it take for me to go from just being like every ordinary person, into an extraordinary person? There are several factors to be considered, but today I've tried to narrow down to make them 12, just 12, so that just like the 12 commandments, it may be, or rather the 10 commandments, it may be easier for you to write this as the 12 commandments of being extraordinary. Okay? So as we move along, I'll just request that you share this with friends, you make comments, you send likes, and so on and so forth, and share the video with as many persons as possible, because I know that it is the quest of our time, it is the desire of the hearts of people that, or a lot of us, that we move from being ordinary persons to being extraordinary persons. So, thank you for joining me. Now, again, I'm sure that a number of us may have encountered situations where, um, where people either ridiculed you and thought of you as being inferior, or thought of you as or regarded you as being less superior to themselves. This has come because a number of us, well, have not known who we are or do not recognize our place in society. Again, I'm sure that you've encountered people who raised their shoulders, who thought that they were more important than you. And you went home feeling slighted, you went home feeling short, you went home feeling less human, or less lower than standard. So today, as I talk about this, I would want us to realize and recognize that every one of us has the potential to become extraordinary in whatsoever we do. So for want of time, I'll just run through them and try to make some explanation, the 12 factors of being extraordinary, and then make some explanations as time will permit me, and hope that these explanations will convince you, and hope that also by the explanations you'll be willing to share your experience with others. The first factor in being an extraordinary person is being you. This may come as a surprise. This may come as a surprise to a number of us. But the first factor is being you. The truth about life is that every one of us has been created uniquely. Every one of us. Some are tall, some are short, some are fat, some are slim. We cannot all be the same persons running towards the same direction. We have all been created with individual brains, individual skills, individual abilities, individual strengths, individual weaknesses. Why? Because our Creator loves variety. But beyond that, so that every one of us can be unique in our own sense. That's why the Creator made you and I in the way that we have been made. I have 6 siblings. None of them is like me. We have resemblance in certain ways, but we're extremely unique in very many ways. I'm the tallest in the family, taller than even my parents. Okay, I'm the one of 2 males in the family. Okay, I've got 5 younger sisters. I studied law, the others studied other courses. We are unique, we are different. When we were growing up, of course, to the extent of our knowledge, the knowledge of our parents, they wanted us to be the same. They wanted us to be similar. They wanted us to look alike. They wanted us to come out as a uniform family. But every time that attempt was made, something went wrong, or of course, by our explanation or our thought, that meant that we were going wrong. But actually, every time that attempt was made, one of us deviated from that attempt. Why? Because we are uniquely made. I see people, I hear people go around and struggle to be like another person. There is a common saying that you, at best, cannot be the best of another person. You can only be the best of yourself. If you try to be like someone else, at best you'll be a photocopy. And of course, you and I know that there's a wide world of difference between the photocopy and the original. Every one of us is an original copy of him or herself. There is no better you, and nobody can be a better you than yourself. So I encourage you this morning, or this afternoon rather, that the first factor to take note of when you want to be an extraordinary person is to be you. Do things the way that they suit you. Speak the way that you have been brought up or you have been made to speak. Okay? Be mindful, I'm not talking about your character. In terms of character, we all aspire to be better persons. We all aspire to have integrity. We all aspire to have vision. We all aspire to be courageous. But even in being courageous, there are areas where some persons are better fitted to be courageous than others. I was speaking with someone just last weekend, last Saturday, at the time just before this, before last Saturday's broadcast, and he said to me that he never stands on a tall building. When he sees someone on a skyscraper, he marvels. He wonders what they are doing up there, because to him, it's like that skyscraper can collapse. So, because of his uniqueness, because of his ability, or because of his understanding to be different, nobody can force him to stand on a skyscraper. Again, this reminds me of a story. I have a friend, he's in Kano right now, Kano State of Nigeria. Kefas is his name. At that point, at some point in life, our parents usually made Christmas clothes for us, and it usually was uniform because they didn't have much resources to buy individual outfits for everyone. So they simply bought material, took it to the tailors measured all of us and made similar dresses or clothes rather for every one of us. But on one occasion, Kefas decided that, and like he said it in a joking manner, that he was not a duck that would line up with all of his younger ones to wear the same clothes. So he determined in that Christmas, or yes, at that Christmas time, to be different. And he decided to go buy himself a pair of jeans and a pair of shirts. And you know what? Even though his parents had made clothes for him, he was different from his younger ones because he chose to wear something different. Now, the first point, like I've mentioned, of being someone extraordinary is to be unique. You and I were fearfully and wonderfully made. The reason why I am dark in skin color than another person is because I am unique. The reason why you may be short in height is because you are unique. And if you hold on to your uniqueness, if you hold on to the things that are built in the inside of you, the abilities, the skills, the talents, if you develop them, you would find out that you are an extraordinary person. Everyone will look up to you and aspire to do the things that you are doing. So the first point is to be as unique as God has created you to be. Do not be ashamed of who you are. Do not be afraid to be proud of your kind of person. Do not think less of yourself because you have been created in a wonderful way. Everything about you was measured and calculated differently from the next person. And you cannot expect to be like the next person. And so you can also not expect the next person to be like you. Every one of us is unique in our own form. The next point to consider becoming an extraordinary person is you need a little more extra effort. A little extra effort. And I learned this from John Maxwell when he outlined the basis for you to be an extraordinary person. And he says, you need a little extra effort. And that is true. Every one of us works, or at least a lot of us work. But how different is your work from the other person's work? If you're a public servant in Nigeria, okay, the tendency is for you to go to office at 8 and close at 4 p.m. And a number of people spend the whole lot of that time just gisting and doing destructive work. But if you want to be someone who is extraordinary, you've got to go to your office a little bit earlier, close a little bit later, but do an extra work beyond your regular schedule. There's a traffic warden just around my house. I respect that man with all sense of responsibility. Why? Because he always does a little extra effort. He always gives a little extra effort from all the other police wardens I have seen on the road. He is constantly on the road controlling traffic. And he's standing there whether the traffic is high or low. When there's a traffic grid, he comes in to clear the grid and allows the road to flow. I've seen him stand there when it is raining. I've seen him stand there when the sun is hot. I've seen him stand there controlling traffic even when the weather is extremely cold and unfriendly. And of course, because of that, he's attracted attention of so many people. I've gone there to give him gifts because I realize that he does things with a little extra effort. For us to be extraordinary, we need to give a little extra effort to whatever we do. One of the things that distinguishes Michael Jordan as a basketballer from other basketballers is the fact that while he was playing, he had a little extra training He went to training before his mates, he closed after them, and whenever they had closed, he goes to the gym. And even at home, he had time. He had a basketball court at home to train. Little wonder he became extraordinary compared to his other mates. It's the same story that has been said about Cristiano Ronaldo. It's the same story that has been said about Nelson Mandela. It's the same story that has been said concerning Mother Teresa, who gave it her job a little extra effort. A little extra effort. So for you to be extraordinary, you've got to give it a little extra effort. The next point is to give it a little extra time. It is now traditional or customary for civil servants in this part of the world, in Nigeria, to go late to work and to close early from work. It's sad. Workers of local governments rarely, as most local governments have been to, workers within the local government rarely go to work before 9. And by 3 p.m., a number of them would have disappeared from office. And you see, in that regard, all of them have become similar. But to be someone who is extraordinary is to give your work, is to give your assignment, is to give your task a little extra time. And by that I mean, if you are an 8 to 5 p.m. Worker, 8 to 5 worker, you can go 7:30 and close 5:30. Give it a little extra time. And of course, when I suggest that you give it a little extra time, I'm not suggesting that you just go there and sit. No, I'm suggesting that you do a little extra work. When your boss gives you an assignment to do a research, give it a little extra time to search deeper. The process of doing that research should be given an extra time. If you are pursuing a dream, if you are pursuing a vision, you are pursuing a goal, give it a little extra time. It takes time for anything to mature. If you want to change a habit, give it a little extra time. It is the process that should matter to us rather than the instant result. And you see, unfortunately, we're in a generation where fast food sells. So everybody just wants to do everything sharp, sharp, and as fast as possible. But those who have been extraordinary are people who have given it an extraordinary time. An extra time. And by the way, the difference between extraordinary people and ordinary people is in the extra. It's in the extra. John Maxwell says this concerning giving it a little extra time. He says, leaders develop daily, not in a day. In other words, it is a little bit of sowing that you do every now and then, every day, that eventually matures and produces a better leader at the tail end of the journey. When you plant a crop in the soil, it doesn't mature the very first day. It takes time to mature. And farmers know this, okay? And farmers are patient to wait for the crop to mature and to grow, to become the fruit, to become the tree that they expect it to be. And of course, fruits that are more valuable foods that are more valuable take a little extra time to mature. So for you to be an extraordinary person, you need to give it an extra time. Concentrate more on the process of growing than on the instant result of growth. Don't be quick to give up. Persevere to the end. Because every great achievement takes time. When Nelson Mandela wanted apartheid to end in South Africa, it took at least 26 years of being in prison for that dream to come to fruition. When Mahatma Gandhi wanted to chase away England, the English colonialists from the land of India, it took some time. It didn't begin in one day and ended it in that same day. No, he mobilized as many people as possible over time. He gave it the process of time. And eventually, it matured. So for you to be an extraordinary person, you need to give it an extra time. An extra time. Next, to be an extraordinary person, you need an extra help. Most of us tend to want to go do our jobs without any help from anybody. And you've heard musicians, especially rappers, sing that they are self-made millionaires. It is not true. Every one of us who claims to be self-made is either not made or has ignored the people that helped him go through the process of being made. For you to be an extraordinary person, you need an extra help. You need an extra advice because in the multitude of counsel is wisdom and victory found. So for you to succeed, for you to be an extraordinary person, you need an extra help from people around you. You need an extra advice. Of course, when we suggest extra advice, we're not saying take advice from everybody. We're saying determine the right people, the experts in the field that you want advice from, and give it and seek an extra advice from them. It's been recognized that students who take time to ask personal questions from their teachers or to seek the attention of their teachers after their discussion is being recognized, or after their teaching, it's been recognized that those children tend to strive and do well in school. So for you to be an extraordinary person, you need an extra help. You need an extra help from your bank to be able to succeed, to be able to do your mortgage. You need an extra advice from experts in mortgage. For you to purchase anything so you can be outstanding, you need an extra advice from the experts in that field. Of course, right now, I know those whom I will ask for advice from when I'm seeking to do anything concerning leadership. So my advice for you is that for you to be an extraordinary person, you need an extra help. Extra help from people. What's the next factor if you want to be an extraordinary person? The fourth is that you need an extra change. We always say that there is something that is constant about the human race, which is change. Every time humans encounter change, the response of many people is to rebel against the change, is to kick against the change. Every time that people have change come their way, they tend to kick hard against the change. And so, like John Maxwell would say, he says most people want to change their circumstances so they can improve their lives and not themselves. That's true. The reason being that most of us are afraid of change. You heard the common saying that if it's not broken, don't fix it. But you see, even that can be delimiting. It can reduce your effectiveness. There are days that you need to change, even when a thing is not broken. In reading the book by John Mason called An Enemy Called Average, I realized that a number of us are contented with being average in life. And because of that, because of our fear for change, because of our contempt for average, we refuse to strive for better things ahead of us. So we never go to the better land. You may have heard of the story of the children of Israel who were enslaved in Egypt. And when they were set free, they moved from one stage to the other. Now, every time they moved, there were changes that occurred to them. And every time that a change occurred to them, most of the people rebelled against the change. Eventually, those who did not rebel against the change got into a land that had been promised them by God. And that land turned out to be much more fruitful than what they had ever seen in life. They became an extraordinary people, an extraordinary nation, just because some people endured the change. They moved from Egypt to the land of the Palestinians, where they are located and situated up to today. And I constantly use Israel as an example. A land where rain falls only once in an entire year, yet the most prosperous agricultural land in the whole earth. Why? Because the people make an extra change. Every time there's a need for them to make a change in how they live, they make that change. One of the things that has continued to keep Africa down is that we're afraid of change. We're afraid to make changes so we can be extraordinary people. Pounded yam is my best meal. And how it's prepared doesn't matter to me as long as it comes out as pounded yam. Now, I know of a father who, at one point, his family had secretly bought a yam pounding machine and prepared his pounded yam and brought his yam pounding machine, or brought his pounded yam to him. Pounded yam is his best food. He constantly ate it. But one day he asked the question. He said he stopped hearing pounding in the kitchen every time they were pounding for him. And they owned up to say to him that they bought a machine that can pound the yam. Do you know that this man rejected eating the pounded yam and insisted it must be pounded with a mortar and a pestle? You know why? Because he's afraid of change. For you to be an extraordinary person, you've got to give room for an extra change. It is people who embrace change, it is people who adopt change that become extraordinary people. You cannot dwell in your current position and hope to be better than what you are. Again, I'm sure a number of us have heard this simple definition of madness, which is doing things repeatedly and expecting a difference. So people who are extraordinary make extra change. You've got to improve from where you are. The next point is that for you to be an extraordinary person, you need a little extra thinking. A little extra thinking. I've done some teaching about thinking, and I'll just recommend that you go back to some of my videos on Facebook or YouTube and check to find out what it means to think and how to think correctly. A number of us act without thinking. A number of us perform assignments, tasks, and responsibilities without sitting back to think about the process by which we're going to do the assignment, to think about the possible obstacles, to think about the possible results that will come from our work if we take certain steps. And so anyone who determines to be an extraordinary person will do a little extra thinking. And the little extra thinking that you do will turn out to make you a person better than 90% of people on planet Earth today. That has been confirmed by research. A little extra thinking. In the course of this pandemic called coronavirus pandemic, all right, a number of us were trapped in our houses and we were unable to use our time because we didn't have the habit of thinking. And some of us have followed like zombies. When it was time for lockdown, we were locked down. Now that lockdown has been eased off, a number of us rushed out of the house without thinking, without knowing what we're going out to do. To be an extraordinary person, you've got to do a little extra thinking. A little extra thinking. Do not follow the bandwagon. There is a popular saying that says if you cannot beat them, you join them. But most of us know that that is a destructive saying. It's an exceptionally destructive saying. And my recommendation is that a little more thinking, a little extra thinking will make you or will place you in a position to be able to beat them. And I plead with you, if you can't beat them, don't join them. There is always a way out to beat them. And it begins with a little extra thinking. A little extra thinking. To be an extraordinary person, the next is that you need a little extra realism. What is realism? Realism is accepting reality. Accepting reality. We all have dreams and visions. We all have goals that we're pursuing. We all have thoughts about a better future for ourselves. But in the course of our vision, dreams, and thoughts, there is reality that confronts us on a daily basis. There's reality that confronts us on a daily basis. And for you to be an extraordinary person, you need an extra realism. Face reality. Admit your failures, admit your strength. Realism will help you acknowledge where you are and what you need to get to the next point of your life. Sadly, there are so many people who are living in wonderland. And because they are living in wonderland, they are unable to face reality. They are unable to acknowledge where they are in life. They are unable to acknowledge their strengths. They are unable to acknowledge their weaknesses. They are unable to acknowledge their failure. Growing up in the Air Force Base, we had this friend who always exaggerated everything about his life, always. Every time we went to play football, he suggested that he was better, even though in reality, we could see that he wasn't better than anybody. He claimed at one point to have had as many as, I think, 10 girlfriends on the Air Force Base. He didn't face reality. He didn't want to acknowledge reality. To be an extraordinary person, you need an extra realism. You need to acknowledge when you are in need and let people know you are in need. There's no point of hiding the fact that you are in need. Actually, by expressing that you are in need, you are exposing yourself for help. You are opening yourself that people may come to your aid and help you out. But if you pretend about your reality, you can be sure that damage and destruction is what awaits you. So for you to be an extraordinary person, you need a little extra realism. And this is important, this is key. For you to be an extraordinary person, you need a little extra work. A little extra work. Every time that you've been given an assignment, if you determine to do a little extra work, if you determine to do a little extra work above the requirement, above the expectation, you make yourself an extraordinary person. You create an influence over the life of people such that when people are looking for someone who is diligent, when people are looking for someone who is hardworking, when people are looking for someone who can perform beyond their expectation, your name will come out top in their hearts. Why? Because you have done a little extra work. A little extra work. Sometimes this little extra work does not mean, does not take you hours to do. Sometimes it's just a matter of 15, 20 minutes, you are done with the work. Yet you leave a lasting impression in the hearts of men and women because you have done a little extra work. I remember when my dad used to take us to farm and we would use the hoe to make ridges, okay, and plant crops. Someone had told me about this a little extra work. And so every time that my dad cut out a portion for us, we, the children, especially my younger brother and I, tried to do something a little extra beyond his expectations. Of course, every time we did that, we were open to a gift from him. It was rare that we got the gift, okay, because again, we understand because of his resources at that time. But then, every time that he spoke words of praise, it impressed our heart that at the next time we were determined to do extra work. Extra work. But I remember when I was learning to farm, and my dad took me and my younger brother to his own younger brother, so his younger brother could mentor us and train us on how to farm. Now, I was older than a number of the kids who were joining him to farm, so my uncle decided and determined he would give me a little extra work, a little extra ridges. And guess what? At that time, every time I had a little extra ridges, I cried. I didn't like it. I cried. It broke my heart because I was seeing myself at par with all the other children. But my uncle was seeing me as being different from all the other children. But guess what? Today, I am thankful that I did the little extra work that my uncle had provided for me to do. It has helped me, not in farming, but it has helped me in my education. It has helped me in how I live my life. I have the high tendency to be a lazy person. But every time I remember that by a little extra work, you can become extraordinary, I jump up to do the little extra work. A little extra reading will not kill you. Rather, it will keep you a little extra above all your mates. People recommend time for sleep, but a little extra staying awake to do some study, to do some research, will keep you a little extra above your mates. For you to be an extraordinary person, you've got to do a little extra work. A little extra work. For you to be an extraordinary person, the next is that you need a little extra generosity. Generosity. You've got to be open-handed to reach out to as many people as possible that you can help. And help does not necessarily come because of the wealth that you have. It comes from your mindset. Your mindset. A number of us have a mentality that we're poor, even though we have resources. For you to be an extraordinary person, sharing your resources with other people will make you a little extra than others. And that, I'm saying, be a little extraordinary means that you do a little extra generosity. Generosity in terms of the time that you allocate to listen to other people's story, to listen to other people's needs, to listen to other people's demands, to listen to other people's requirement for attention. An extraordinary husband is one who is extraordinary or has extra generosity to his wife and his children. To be an extraordinary son, you've got to show a little extra generosity to your parents. To be an extraordinary brother, you've got to show an extra generosity to your siblings. To be an extraordinary colleague at your place of work, you've got to show a little generosity to the people around you in your place of work. And like I've mentioned before, this does not necessarily require spending money. Sometimes it's just a little extra quietness to listen to someone speak to you. At other times, it's just a 15 minutes walk with someone. At other times, it's just a sharing of your meal with someone. So for you to be an extraordinary person, you've got to have extra generosity. Extra generosity. For you to be an extraordinary person, let me recap. For you to be an extraordinary person, number one, you've got to be an extra unique you. You've got to be you. There's nobody that can be like you. To be an extraordinary person, you need an extra time. Add in some extra time to the work that you've been given. Add in some extra time to the research that you are doing. and you find out that you come out extraordinary above other people. For you to be an extraordinary person, you need an extra help from people. You've got to have a little extra realism. You've got to have a little extra change. And of course, just like I've mentioned, you need a little extra generosity to other people for you to be a person who is extraordinary in the things that you do. For you to be an extraordinary person, you need a little extra planning. It will seem that planning has become a challenge for a number of people. I've thought as to how to use your time well, and in it I've thought as to how to do planning, to plan your day properly, to plan your week properly, to plan your month properly, to plan your entire year and 10 years properly. Now I can say this for sure. 30 minutes of planning on Sunday can make the entire week a fruitful week. A fruitful week. Just 30 minutes of planning. My encouragement is that even if you have been planning, do a little extra planning so you can have a little extra week, a little extraordinary month, a little extraordinary year. And as you gather this in bits and pieces, little by little, you will discover that you are an extraordinary person above many persons in the world. Currently, we're told that 80% of the world's resources resides with 2% of the people in the world. 2% hold much more than 80% of world's resources. They control world resources. Why? They have done something a little extra than others. And most of the time, it begins with a little extra planning. A little extra planning. Nigeria's economy has been said to be bad for years, right? But regardless of that, we still have the richest black man thriving in this economy. Why? I can tell you for certain, he's made a little extra planning, he's made a little extra work. Those things are clear, they are obvious. A little extra planning, a little extra work. For you to be an extraordinary person, you need a little extra planning. What's the best way to plan? My suggestion is every weekend, particularly on Sunday evening, sit down for 30 minutes and plan the entire week. Write out the goals you want to achieve within the week. The major goals, I mean. As you do that, give room for a little distraction here and there within the week. And I can tell you that by the end of the week, if you made one achievement per day, you would have made 7 achievements within the week. 7. And that's no mean task. You would have made 7 achievements. If you did 2 every day, you would have made 14 achievements within the week. 14 achievements. And that would make you an extraordinary person above your peers, above 99% of the world. A little extra planning. Right now, as an individual, I've got my 10 years plan rolling. It started a year or 2 years back, rather. 2 years back. And every day or every month, I sit down to review the plan I look at my 10-year goals. I've broken them down into 3 year goals, and then the last year is an extra year as I put it out. Every time I sit down monthly to review, what I see is that I continue to conquer gradually, step by step, from one level to the next level. I'm inching closer to the goal and dream and aspirations that I have. Why? I've made a little extra planning. A little extra planning. So I encourage you to be an extraordinary person. You need a little extra planning. You need a little extra endurance to be an extraordinary person. Times are tough, situations are hard, economies are running down, but some people have determined that whether the economies come to a standstill, they would endure to the end and push on until they get to their destination in terms of their dreams and goals. Some others, unfortunately, have hung themselves, jumped off the bridge, jumped off skyscrapers because they couldn't give it a little extra endurance. Those that endure to the end always, always, always get a good reward. So I encourage you, for you to be an extraordinary person, you need a little extra endurance. A little extra endurance. So right now, you may be listening to me and have gotten to the point where you're thinking to give up. Let me encourage you, do not give up. Just give it a little extra endurance. And with time, you will be known and recognized as an extraordinary person. An extraordinary person. People who have held on to the end, people like Nelson Mandela, who gave it a little endurance and spent 26 years of his life in prison, ended up breaking the back of apartheid, and then ended up becoming the president, the first black president of South Africa. Why? Because he gave it a little extra endurance. A little extra endurance. The reason why in India, the name of Mahatma Gandhi cannot be erased is the fact that Mahatma Gandhi had given it a little extra endurance to ensure that colonialism departed from India. A little extra endurance. So you may be going through tough times at the moment. You may have even considered committing suicide. My encouragement to you is that give it a little more endurance. And in no distant time, you'll be an extraordinary person. There are politicians who have failed from one level of election to the next level, but gave it a little extra endurance. Abraham Lincoln is one of such persons. Gave it a little extra endurance and eventually became the president of the United States of America. Give it a little extra endurance. And finally, to be an extraordinary person, you need a little extra attitude. A little extra attitude. Our attitudes are determined by us. How you respond to situations will determine what your attitude is, or at least will reveal what your attitude is to the world. There are people who have kicked against governments around the world. There are people who have kicked against change in their schools. A little extra attitude would have given them a little extra edge over every other person. Why? because attitude determines how well you do anything. If you have a positive attitude, you will do everything positively and very well. If you have a negative attitude, you will do everything negatively and do poorly. Give it a little extra attitude. When people shout at a community, when people shout at something, do not join at them in shouting. The crowd can sometimes or most of the times be wrong. There was a time that the world was thought to be flat until a scientist did a little extra research and discovered that the earth was spherical. You know what? He was disliked. In fact, he was condemned to death for thinking that the world was spherical. He gave it a little extra research. And you know, the entire world there, as it was then, ganged up and wanted to kill him until someone gave it a little extra attitude to think it through with him and discover that the earth is spherical. And you and I today can gladly say that the earth is spherical. But imagine that the scientists said, well, because they have said the world is flat, then the world must be flat. A little extra attitude will determine your position or will determine the possibility of you to be an extraordinary person. If you follow any of these 12 steps, I can guarantee you that you will be an extraordinary person. And I'll run through the 12 steps quickly again so you can understand what we're talking about. The first is that be a little extra you. In other words, believe in yourself because you have been fearfully and wonderfully made. No one, even if you are a twin, okay, no one is like you. No one can think like you. No one has the same attitude like you. No one has the same skin texture as you. Even if you are identical twin, there is something uniquely different from you and your identical twin. Therefore, give yourself a little extra belief. Give yourself a little extra belief. Do a little extra work to be extraordinary. When people exercise for 30 minutes, stretch it to 40 minutes for yourself. You will discover that you become fitter, you become trimmer, you become healthier than those who have done it for 30 minutes. Do a little extra work. Do a little extra generosity. When people give a coin, give 2 coins if you can afford it. That way you will be an edge above them. Give it a little extra endurance. A little extra push. Before you give up, endure a little more, and in no distant time, you will discover that you are an extraordinary person. When the Wright brothers tried to fly a plane, they didn't fly it the first day that they started. They flew it after several attempts and failure. When the light bulb was discovered or invented, the inventor didn't stop at his 15th attempt. He stopped after 900 or at least he stopped when he discovered the electricity bulb, and that happened at the 10,000th times of his attempt. Give it a little extra endurance. A little extra endurance. Give it a little extra planning. 30 minutes of planning weekly will give you a successful week ahead of you. Just 30 minutes of planning. sit down and plan your entire week in 30 minutes, sometimes less than that, will ensure that the entire week runs smoothly. For you to be an extraordinary person, give it a little extra planning. Give it a little extra attitude. Your attitude determines how well you do anything. For you to be an extraordinary person, give it a little extra thinking. A little extra thinking. Think before you act. And for you to be an extraordinary person, give it a little extra change. Do not be satisfied with status quo. Learn to change status quo when change is needed. I know that change can be the most difficult part of the human life, but everything that has improved went through a process of change. Give it a little extra change. Give it a little extra realism. Admit your failures. Admit and acknowledge where you are in life while you set your gaze and your focus on things that you are pursuing in the future. And for you to be an extraordinary person, you need a little extra time. A little extra time. A little extra time of endurance. A little extra time of planning. A little extra time of developing yourself. No fruit that is planted grows on the very first day. In fact, we're told that the Chinese bamboo, when you plant it for 5 years, nothing comes out. But by the 5th and 6th, 7th year, okay, that plant grows to about 90 feet in 1 year. So give it a little extra time. Give or seek a little extra help. For you to be an extraordinary person, you need to seek a little extra help. To be an extraordinary person, you need to give a little extra effort, a little extra push. If you have been reading 2 books a year, can you determine to read 4 books this year? If you have been reading 2 books in a month, can you determine to read 4 books within this month? Give it a little extra effort. I can say for sure that if you do any of these 12 things, and more so if you do these 12 things in combination, you will be an extraordinary person. I'll come to an end now by thanking everyone who has come online and joined me. And thank you for those who have made comments. And thank you for those who are willing to learn and have learned. I'll see you next time on Wednesday at 1 p.m. on Facebook and on Facebook and YouTube live broadcast. At the scroll bar is our email address, is our phone number, just in case you need a little training in terms of leadership. Please feel free to contact us on borntoleadbtn@gmail.com or any of the phone numbers on the scroll bar, and we'll make ourselves available to come train you, train your family, train your organization on how to be better leaders. Until we hear from you, thank you so much for the privilege to have done this, and thank you for the opportunity to have listened to me. See you on Wednesday, even as God continues to bless us. Thank you, and have a great day ahead of you. Thanks.